Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video, I wanted to talk about something different today, something that one of you requested that I talk about, and I just love this idea. So today I'm going to talk about Venus in detriment. So Venus in Aries and Venus in Scorpio. So a planet in detriment is a planet that is opposite the sign that it rules, or in a sign that's opposite to the sign that it rules. So Venus naturally rules Taurus and Libra. So Venus in Aries and Venus in Scorpio are detriment because they are opposing those placements, which Venus naturally rules and feels very comfortable in, right? So detriment planets are not a death sentence, and I really do think that it is an opportunity for development of that energy because it doesn't come supernaturally or super easily like planets in their home sign do or planets in their exalted sign do. But it takes a bit of development and a bit of like trial and error to get to the higher side of detriment placements. And so I thought I'd start with these because I have one of these. I have Venus in Aries, and I feel like I have really studied it a lot, probably, more than many of my placements or many placements that I've studied, because it's also in my first house too. So it's kind of like prominent. And yeah, so I'll talk about Venus in Aries and I'll talk about Venus in Scorpio and how they're different, how they're the same. So how they're the same is that these are two placements that are very much ruled by passion and sometimes lust over love. Now, not all the time, but that can definitely be a manifestation in Venus or in Aries or Scorpio. Now, another thing about it is like they're both ruled by Mars, although Scorpio is now ruled by Pluto. It still has a bit of that Mars energy. So that's why with Venus in Aries or Scorpio, we're seeing more passion or more lust than love, is because Mars is, in a sense, having more to say over this placement than Venus, which doesn't naturally, feel at home with these energies. So another way that they're the same is a more self-serving attitude. Now, you might think that that is going to only show up with Venus in Aries, but Venus in Scorpio too can have selfish tendencies because of their very grippy attitude towards loved ones and also towards financial things. You can see people with Venus in Scorpio in some cases having a bit of like greed or a tendency to just really want to keep everything for themselves, like selfish gain. And that is something, that we can see with Venus in Scorpio, whether it's a partner or whether it's something financial. They can definitely be, more kind of wanting everything for themselves, because when Venus is in Pluto's sign here, there can be very powerful feelings of lack, like they can never have enough from within because they do not feel true self-worth as easily as Venus in, an easier sign, right? So that can lead to some selfish behavior. And I am going to talk about the good things about these placements too. So don't hate me, you guys. I love you guys. I'm one of you. Don't hate me. And then on Venus and Aries side, it's a little bit more just an inability to see how our actions affect the other person. So it's a more natural, just self-serving attitude. I said something the other day on Threads. You guys should follow me on Threads. It's like super lit over there. I should like post my link. I don't even know what it is though, but it's Brit Soul Coach Brittany Taylor. But anyways, I wrote this thing on Threads where I said, Aries is like the least calculated energy of the zodiac. And what I meant by that is like they do not think about things that they're doing, right? So when we're when we're thinking about Venus and Aries socially, in love relationships, financially, Venus and Aries is not calculated. They're not thinking about what they're doing. Now, I didn't say this in my Threads post, but like this can of course lead to incredibly selfish behavior when you're not considering how your actions affect others. You're just acting, right? Which is like the, more negative side of Aries. You can end up hurting some people and behaving in very selfish, self-serving ways, right? So that's kind of the difference in the selfishness coming from Venus and Aries or Venus and Scorpio, okay? But they're both, this is like a part of why this is a detriment, because think about this. Venus rules over heart energy, right? Your heart chakra, how you love, how you give and receive love, how you give and receive money and financial, energy too. So when we have Venus in a more selfish or self-serving sign, the giving principle is not always functioning. And so what that can cause now at like the spiritual level, when you give, you receive back. Okay, so when we withhold giving or we withhold heart energy, it actually causes us to lose, not gain. So Venus and Scorpio might think they're gaining by hogging the partner or the money or whatever it is and being very clingy and holding on very tight to it. They're actually operating from scarcity, and so it's blocking abundance. It's blocking their true soulmates. It's blocking that free exchange of heart energy. Now, Venus and Aries will do this differently, but they can still do it by wanting everything for themselves. Sometimes Venus and Aries can have a disregard for, what other people might want or have an interest in or have. And they can just be like, well, I feel like this. I'm reacting in passion. I'm reacting in lust and just, taking everything and then thinking, oh, sorry, didn't realize I was taking that from you. So both of these placements have a lot to learn about giving and receiving freely. And once they can learn that to give someone something, to give someone love, to give someone affection freely, or to give someone a gift or whatever, it's always going to come back to you, right? Now, Venus and Aries can be more giving than Venus and Scorpio, I think, because it's not thinking, right? But where it can become more selfish is like once they become bored of the certain situation or person, then the giving can stop and then they can go and give to someone else without the thought of how it's going to hurt that one person. So actually Venus in Aries, you can see extreme, almost like insane levels of generosity and impulsive giving, like buying someone you just met a car or something. That's kind of like Venus in Aries. Then realizing they don't actually like that person, stopping giving to them completely and moving on to a new relationship. So see how that is still misplaced giving when your giving is very unbalanced like that. Like perhaps you should have waited a few months or something to see if you would continue to feel those passionate feelings for that person before you bought them the car, right? I love you guys. Just calling you out. So yeah, there's lots to be learned about giving and receiving from the heart. Aries needs to learn how to do it in a less excessive, like more balanced way. And Scorpio Venus needs to learn how to do it in a way that is actually, being giving. Because Scorpio being fixed has more of a tendency to withhold everything. Like you can know Venus and Scorpio men or women where they will actually like, in some cases, like withhold a compliment even. Like they don't want to tell you that you look good because they don't want to give you that power. Now, not every person with Venus and Scorpio is going to be like super manipulative, okay? there are higher levels and there's lower levels. I like to talk about all of the potentials of each placement, and like, even if you're not operating in like the lowest like level, maybe you can still relate to a time in the past when you were like that, or something that you've worked on, right? Or maybe you were born a highly evolved soul and your lessons will look different. Maybe you were already functioning at a very high level with your Venus placement, even though it's in detriment. Very old souls could come to this earth with detriment placements because they're transmuting karma for the collective and like taking it to a higher level, if that makes sense too. So, yeah. Why else are they detriment? So let's talk about Venus in Aries. So Venus is the pleasure principle as well. So when we have Venus coming through the sign of self, when Venus actually rules the sign of others and giving to others, there can be too much pleasure in fulfilling the selfish desires, right? And having, a very me-centered life is very natural and very pleasurable to a Venus in Aries person who is unevolved, right? So if you think about the Libra Aries polarity and Venus being very comfortable in Libra, because Venus likes to think of the other person. Venus is the lover. Like, Venus is social relating through Libra and beauty and grace. Now, Venus in Aries may sometimes be lacking all of those qualities. Not that they aren't beautiful. They definitely, all Venus signs have their own like beauty, but Venus in Aries might be lacking in tact, and they might be like the kind of person who isn't necessarily listening, and this can come out more in romantic relationships. They're not necessarily listening to what the partner is actually saying or doing, because the partner is a complete extension of self. So they're just assuming what's going on with the partner and what they're feeling, what they're thinking. And actually, people with Venus in Aries, because of this, can be absolutely blindsided by things that the partner actually says or does, or like if they get left or something. Like they can just be like, where did that even come from? And it can almost even lead to a bit of a delusion, but it's not a delusion like a Venus in Pisces or a Neptune. It's a delusion because they didn't actually listen to what the partner was saying or doing. And so Venus in Aries people can be delusional because of their inability to actually see the other person and what's going on. And all people, not just romantic relationships, but a person with Venus in Aries sees themselves in the other, and they can have difficulty truly seeing other people for what they are. They assume they are what they are, right? So it can be tricky, and one of the big lessons of Venus in Aries is learning how to put themselves in to the other's shoes and really see them. And then they might be shocked and surprised at what they see, and maybe they'll love it, right? To really see somebody and, not just see them as what they think they are, what they are, but really see somebody in their differences. On the higher side, Venus in Aries can be really seeing and living out the best, like, passionate love of a lifetime energy. And their passion never dies because they do everything with such a great passion that they can keep that passion alive in their relationship. And they can put that passion into everything that they do, and it can be felt. So they're truly like living with that feeling of being alive. And other people can feel that too coming from them. It's like pure primal life energy, Aries. And that comes out through their social interactions and through their love relationships. They can really like vitalize things and bring energy, bring life, and bring passion back to even someone who has totally lost the energy to live. That like throw a Venus and Aries person in there and like, whoa, they're alive again because Venus and Aries gives energy. They're not always receptive to other people's energy, but they're sending their energy. So they're very energizing, they're very inspiring, and like they can keep the passion alive because they can't do anything without passion. So you won't see them in a relationship that's not passionate because they will keep recharging it so that it remains passionate. And then, they have to work through issues of self versus other, and then they can end up being some of the best partners when they're truly balanced in that, because they're like not going to do things that they like are being peer pressured in. That's not how a Venus and Aries works. They're not going to be like the people pleaser. So they can have a correct balance of self versus other. So Venus in Scorpio, how to get to the higher side of that. So Venus in Scorpio can really have like the true soulmate love of a lifetime, because Pluto will attract them to people who will allow them to transform. And on the higher side, it is fierce loyalty and protectiveness over another, and like till death do us part is like their true motto. So when they get through the intense jealousies and fears of relationship and fear of giving, then they can actually really truly live out a marriage, like till death do us part, probably more than any of the other signs, because the plutonic hold over someone is so strong. So probably like the higher side of Venus in Scorpio, or the highest side, is that true loyalty. And it's not that they can't let the partner go. It's just like this is how they love, and this is a part of their purpose, is to have this kind of depth and soulmate love that is maybe even carried into other lifetimes. Like it's that intense. It's like, so like the hold that they have on people can actually be a positive thing. And you can see people with Venus and Scorpio, when they have really found their soulmate and they have like cleared these fears of truly relating and letting themselves be seen, letting themselves be vulnerable in a relationship, letting themselves give of their heart and give to the partner, they can be some of the best lovers because they've had to go through that. So there's nothing that scares them. You could tell them anything and they would be like, this is like ride or die energy, right? And so it's like there's nothing that could break their loyalty unless you break the loyalty. Then that will be like very hurtful for them always, right? What else about Venus in Scorpio? The passion of Venus in Scorpio is different than the passion of Venus in Aries, but yet it is similar in that the passion will remain alive, and because they can't relate without passion. So if you're looking for a love that stays passionate throughout the entirety of the relationship, there's no dry spells, there's no boringness, you should definitely pick a Venus in Aries or Venus in Scorpio who are operating on the higher side. Another part of the higher side of Venus in Scorpio is actually quite different than Venus in Aries. They can truly see people, even without working on themselves. And actually, on the lower end, they can use this to manipulate people as well. But to be seen by a Venus in Scorpio person who is truly evolved is like the most healing, opening energy that you could have. And it is truly powerful. It's like being seen by God itself. Like the eyes on you from a Venus and Scorpio person is like penetrating to the depths of your entire soul. And that can be very healing to be seen in this way, whether it's unwanted or not. Yeah, it's like someone truly seeing the depths of your soul. Okay, this video is kind of getting long, but yeah. So the higher side is passion. The lower side is passion with both of these placements. Yeah, I'd love to know your experience of either one of these if you have them in your natal chart. I'd love to hear how it's been for you and how it's manifesting for you positively or negatively. And yeah, detriment placements aren't something to fear. They're just something that like it needs to be worked on in order for you to really like have lasting, like in this case, lasting self-worth or like healthy relationships. It just needs to be worked on. These things need to be tweaked. It doesn't have to be a lifelong healing process either. Sometimes just the awareness that we have these astrological placements can help us with the reacting that we will naturally do when we have them. So anyways, I hope this was helpful. Sending you guys all the love. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll talk soon.